Castillo, please. Rene Castillo. Leon Fernandez. Rita Berruto. Angélica Lares. And Guillermo del Toro.
The tallest dwarf in the circus. You know, we were super happy with that. Guadalajara is very strange. You know, it's a city that is at the same time very creative and very conservative. So we never really did anything for the city. Nobody hired us. We did everything for Mexico City. We had to go on pitch. We did, the only thing we did was for the International Book Fair in Guadalajara. That's the only client we got, and the first commercial we did, it was a lump of clay that transformed into Dracula, a cowboy, a robot, blah, 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 and then it finally turned into a book. And Rigo and I started animating together, and then after one transformation or two, I said, you animate, I direct. I'm gonna walk over there. And he continued animating. By that time, I had been doing makeup effects for a few years. So I took all the money I had from makeup effects and I bought 2 Mitchell cameras, Mitchell NC. And we put an electric rig that could stabilize the electricity. And then we did, you know, commercials here and there, most of them horrible. And but people started to get familiar with the equipment, and I think Rita, Juan Jose, you know, Rene, you know, they started approaching Rigo could we loan them the equipment, and Rigo started discussing, very collegiate. Rigo started talking about animation, and we did the armatures ourselves. We did the puppet ourselves in clay. And I was supposed to start a feature called Omnivore before Kronos, because I was gonna marry, and my father-in-law said, I hear that people in movies are very indecent. And I said, sir, I'm not indecent. I am a good man. I will make all my puppets in clay. There's no risk of cocaine use. There's no risk. So we built 100 and something puppets. Between my father, my then fiancé, and myself, Rigo, a couple of friends, we built sets, the puppets, and we started shooting. And the first day of shoot, we went to see a movie, and the workshop was robbed. They broke in, they destroyed everything, and they took a poop. They took a giant poop in the room and peed all over and they said, that's it. I'm going to live action for a while. But the equipment started to be used. Who was the first one that used it? You, right? Yeah, so Rene started, and immediately, all these guys are phenomenal animators. I think that it was very easy to see that everything that was built was the basis for that, but the real birth of animation is the people that create beautiful things. And Rene started, you know, him and a guy called Tonio Rutia did Sin Sostén, right? That was the first. So why don't you talk about it?
Well, I was amazed by this technique, stop motion. I was completely in love with this, and I really wanted to push forward, to learn. And I was looking for Rigo to teach me. And when I finally showed my first animation work, he told me, it's horrible. You're very bad. I'm learning. And through the years, he became a really, really great friend of all of us. And he...
El octavo día.
Sí. Este cortometraje estábamos con Daniel Varela, que también fue el profesor en el Instituto de Ciencias, ¿no? Tuyo, donde estudió un poco tus acercamiento al cine, ¿no?
Sí.
Continue, I will help you.
Do we translate in English or?
I translate in English. So, ¿con quién estabas?
No, she started. Daniel Varela was the guy that grandfathered all of these things because he was a professor of audiovisual in the high school we were at, and he's the one that said, "Why don't you teach animation if you're doing animation?" And it was, and then you guys met him, right? ¿Lo conociste ahí?
Sí, conocí a Rigo por pues, una cuestión no necesariamente de la animación, nos conocimos y era un entusiasta, era siempre de buen humor, un humor muy ácido, muy negro que me encantaba, y nos contaba muchas anécdotas de ustedes, de una persecución en que traían unos líquidos, se traían para Cronos, traían un material y que...
Explosivo. Yeah, so she met Rigo, and Rigo had our meal for the whole week. Rigo said, "Pass me a bone." And all the money that we saved on food, we put on buying a new set of lights or a new lens and all that. And sometimes we started using explosive mixtures. We were very careless. We were doing, you know what a cloud tank is? Where you inject the ink and it creates clouds like Raiders of the Lost Ark. We started doing it with alcohol and gasoline. And we started injecting inks and we had the lights hanging over it and they could have exploded. I mean, we had anecdotes like that all over the place.
Sí, nos contaban muchas anécdotas y empezamos a hacer el corto y él nos dijo, yo les enseño a inyectar el látex espumado que tenía un montón de azufre,
sí.
Es súper tóxico. y recuerdo que me dijo, yo lo voy a hornear aquí en la casa, lo vamos a inyectar, me acuerdo que me paré en el molde y yo lo inyecto y haciendo así las fuerzas, lo metimos al horno y empezó a oler. Me empezaron a crecer los lacrimales y me empecé a asfixiar y le digo, ven en unas 6 horas por el molde, si no te vas a morir aquí. Y él se quedó viendo la televisión.
Yeah. No, we used to, I mean, he taught them how to inject foam latex. What you
Ammoniaco.
Ammonia. Yeah, the thing is latex when it's curing is expelling ammonia. And it keeps expelling ammonia even when it's already cured. You know, that's why it disintegrates. And Rigo and I'm very good at mold making, sculpting. We would sculpt, mold make, paint. I still paint models. You know, we did everything, but the only thing we didn't have was ventilation. You know, eventually we got ventilation, but so they started doing the mold, and she started smelling all the ammonia, and she had to leave for 6 hours while the latex was curing.
And he was sitting in his living room, right?
Yeah, no, one day, the longest day we had was for a movie. We had 72 hours, not sleeping, not eating, not stopping, and it was waiting for the latex to cure. And we pulled it out of the oven, and it had collapsed, and we started laughing, and we fell down on the floor. And slept for 48 hours on the floor. So it was. I mean, but it gives you discipline. And their short is called The 8th Day, and it's an amazing short. I think it was the first time we met.
Sí, Daniel Varela hizo a bien mostrarle unas pruebas de animación en VHS, ¿verdad?
Yeah.
Y entonces Guillermo me llama a mi casa y me dice, a mi esposa y a mí nos encantó tu proyecto, queremos apoyarte.
Yeah, so we met, and they showed me some tests on VHS, and I watched it, and I called her and I said, I saw the short with my wife, we want to support you, and I think it was the first time I presented a short, because I have done Kronos, and you know, the philosophy that came from Daniel Varela and Jaime Humberto Hermosillo, who started all the movement in Guadalajara, it was, if you help each other, it's better than if you try to go solo. Like, I think that when you give, you receive. And so the politics is, every time I produce somebody, a first-time filmmaker, I say you have to produce somebody that is a first-time filmmaker. That's your duty. Nobody does, by the way. It was the first time.
Y bueno, para cerrar, porque tenemos tiempo corto, me dio un dato me hice un dato para ir por un equipo a Churubusco, se busca a Rolo y vamos con el equipo y me traje un tripié, un magazine, un interbarómetro y usamos la cámara de 35 milímetros que Guillermo había donado a la Universidad de Guadalajara.
Sí. When we met, sort of approaches to aesthetics, because they work on each other. So Leon works for everyone. He directs, he molds, he creates, and then what happens is, every time I get something, I want to. There was no film festival for Mexican film in the entire country, and we said, a group of people, we said, there's no way to see Mexican film in Mexico. So we created the first festival of Mexican film in the country. There was no school for cinema in Guadalajara, so we created a cinema school. Both of them are going now on to 40 years. The festival is still going, the school is still there with another name, and what we would do is we would teach. And on the first 5 festivals, I was a driver, a ticket seller, a film auteur. We were everything. And I think when I won The Shape of Water, and I came back with the Oscars, that's when I said, this is the time to ask to create something for this animation movement, because there's a lot of, you have to start from scratch every time. You have to get equipment, you have to rent it. And it all comes from Mexico City. So I said, why don't we create a workshop that is run by the filmmakers.
Ian McKinnon and Peter Saunders opened the studio for me. And
The British are very warm.
yeah.
If you see Ted Lasso, you know it's true.
Yes, when I was at the high school, I think I learned about making little clothes. So I really didn't. I never dreamed that period of time that I was just doing something really strange helped me to get into this great world of costume in Pinocchio, and it was just like an amazing, amazing adventure. The costumes are kind of a puppet above the other puppets, so it was like crazy and I don't know, I remember we were just dealing with some things really like strange, like we had to study how could we just these the rabbits are all carrying the
Longest shot in the movie. He did the dancing cricket at the end, which is the longest shot by far. And but the thing that is important is the way we, and this is something that I owe it to another teacher I had. Dick Smith was a makeup effects Oscar winner. He had done Godfather, he had done Amadeus, he had done Altered States, The Exorcist, and he was my makeup teacher. And before any of this happened, before any of this formalized, I studied with him makeup effects, mold making, painting, all the technical stuff that was passed to Rigo, and then from Rigo to everyone, how to make the molds, what materials I needed to do. I had to translate all the materials to what was available in Mexico. Because he would say, oh yeah, in America it's very efficient. Call this company in Portland and they'll send it. In Mexico, you have to go to a place that makes shoes. And you have to find a rubber that they use to make shoes. And from then on, Rigo knew where to buy it. All this, but he was the most generous man in the world. Listen, this guy is the second Oscar winner in makeup history. And I wrote him and I said, I'm a guy from Mexico. I want to do a movie called Kronos. Nobody can do the effects. I'm the only guy doing effects here. And if you don't teach me, I cannot make the effects in my movie. And he wrote me personally back. And he taught me, and he picked me up at the station in New York. He took me to lunch. And he did this with hundreds of people. Hundreds and J.J. Abrams, whom I met almost 30-something years ago, was his student. He said, oh, J.J., why don't you meet Guillermo? And he introduced me to Rick Baker, to Rob Bottin, to everybody. And this is my model in life. I say, I'm here to help people connect with each other. And Guadalajara by itself wouldn't work. We have to make Guadalajara, Portland, and England be a single entity. And for them to think like international citizens of the world, like we belong to the world. We're not alone. So the idea was, the taller, the Chucho, was co-designed with the guys from Shadow Machine. They came in, they told us how to do this, how to build that, and you feel a kinship. And this is the main thing we can say to you. And this is what ANNECY is great. You are not alone in whatever country you're in. You're part of a community of freaks that is fantastic. So take advantage of that. This is your family. This is your classroom. This is your world. Take advantage of it.
I would like to talk also a little bit about animation. How do you,
At the best level in Guadalajara, and that's amazing.
thank you. What do you think, Sophie? How do you see the perspective with the features that you're pulling and starting to work on?
I think it's blooming. I think animation is blooming. I've been in Argentina in December, and I was so amazed by the beautiful things that are happening in South America. Not only in Argentina, of course, but in Chile, Argentina. It's just like crazy, and I'm really happy because our parents probably thought that they have to do something really like serious, because it was a serious world, and now I feel that the young people have the opportunity to do something that they're passionate and love them and love. So it is a great time to say I want to be an animator. I mean, my parents didn't know when I told them I'm going to do animation. I'm going to study. I'm going to go to the film school. That is crazy because I don't know. 7 years after what you said, there was a film school in Guadalajara. So I was like, I'm able to study cinema in Guadalajara, and oh my God, it's just like crazy to understand what's been happening this I don't know, 25 years. It's just, thank you, Guillermo. It's just crazy.
No, the thing that is funny is Leon went to McKinnon and Saunders, and when they were doing the rib cages of the rabbits, he said, why don't we make them in metal? Which is, of course, a jeweler solution that very Mexican. Why don't we do it? Like when we were doing Chronos, we created a machine that was made of gold by an alchemist in Mexico in 1600s, and we said we were looking at plastics that we could use gold to do electrolysis, and then we said, why don't we make them in silver and gold? Yeah, and we made them. We made 13 machines in silver and gold with real jewelers. We have solutions in Mexico that go back to really old craftsmanship. And that is what everybody that comes from a third world country has something to give to the world that the first world cannot even imagine. Because we have solutions and creativity that comes from a different place. So we do it. And I think it's very important to know that Latin America is in a great moment of creativity for animation because we don't give a fuck. We're gonna get it made no matter what. And we don't care if there's no money, we don't care if there's no chance, we don't care if it's no future, we're gonna fucking make it. And the thing with animation is this, if you come to ANNECY, animation has never been more alive, but we're still being kept at the fucking children's table at an industrial level, meaning the industry of animation wants you to do a fucking movie about a skateboarding dog and for kids. And they want you to do a commercial about dancing yogurts, and it's horrible. So we have to fight to change it. We have to take over the fucking asylum and run it. So this is the chance. This is the chance. This should be the generation to do it.
Nunca ha sido, yo prefiero, bueno, a venir y quedar en selección o aquí en ANNECY para mí es ya un gran paso, es para mí realmente significativo y pues es difícil levantar un proyecto en México, aún a pesar de que he tenido los recursos del IMCINE. Los proyectos en animación, ¿sabes?, suelen ser más elevados los presupuestos de lo que puede apoyar, de lo que podrían apoyarnos.
Okay, she says she prefers to be behind the camera, but to be here with her film Humo as a part of the official selection is already a dream. You know, to make films in Mexico, you need the support of the Mexican Institute of Film, and they are not used to not only the budget, but the technical calendar and the way of making animation. Is very difficult to get those things made.
Y bueno, me siento muy contenta de estar aquí y que ayer en Bollywood estuvo la presentación hermosísima. La gente te recibe con un cariño y un respeto al director que realmente te llevan a las lágrimas, el cariño que es ver a los creativos, a los productores y ver cómo respetan el trabajo de la animación es muy diferente que cualquier otro festival.
So, you understand. Sacre bleu. Well, I'll translate for those that don't know what the fuck you're applauding about. She says that it's great to see it received in Mandu, not only by the audience, but the fact that it's creatives, producers, and they dignify and give the respect to the medium and the director that is impossible to get in any other festival in the world. So, now, if I may, there are people that are not here on stage. There is Carla and Luis, who are also great animators. They stay in Guadalajara. Juan Jose is also an amazing animator. Everybody has started alone, and then they pair up, or they, it's like the Beatles. They break up, they come together, they break up again. But it's basically the band of 7 people. There's people in all of Mexico, in Guanajuato, in Monterrey, in Mexico City, Cinema Fantasma. And I think that it's important in our country, and this came from Dick Smith. Normally, what you did if you knew something, they didn't share it with anyone. You kept it as a secret. You wanted to be the only one making it. And Dick Smith was not like that. He said, I know makeup effects, I'm gonna teach you all makeup effects. He created Rick Vega, so we did the same. I teach everything I know, everything I can do for others, and so do we all in the group. And Estrella, and Raúl Padilla, who are not here, or maybe they're here but not here on the stage, they were fundamental in creating this workshop. Raúl was a politician in Guadalajara that believed in the future. And the hardest thing in Latin America is to believe in the future, because most politicians do not care about the future. They care about the now and what they can get out of the country. And he wanted to create the future, and Estrella Araiza, who's the head of the film festival, was fundamental in creating the Taller del Chucho. And these people, and Daniel Varela, who's not here, you know, and being fundamental. It's important to know these things. If you have it, share it. If you have it, share what Leon said. The politic is, oh, I'm gonna go there and they're not gonna teach me because it's their secrets. Fuck that. Teach it, share it, give it. Because I think if you love animation, if you don't just love yourself, if you love animation, you want animation to survive. This is an art form, stop motion, that has stayed the same, basically, for 100 years. We're a bunch of crazy fuckers that are keeping an ancient form of magic alive. Pass it on and share it. And one thing I did all of my life since I was a kid, I said, there's no division between Mexico City and Guadalajara. Because traditionally it was like, oh, fuck them and fuck them. And I said, we should join. And I support as much these guys as I support Cinema Fantasma, as I would support anyone doing animation in any part of Mexico. And it's important that we do that.
Yeah, and that's also, we have people working with us. That's what I really like. For example, we had this girl that she was with us giving servicio social, and she used to take pictures for us, you know, just like for social media and stuff. And one day she said, "Oye, hey Angelica, can I take the stop motion courses?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure, go ahead, go for it." And she found her passion there, and she really loved it. And now she was working on a short film with Cecilia Andalon in Dolores, and that's the thing that carries on. And that's what, when you give younger generations a chance, and then they see that you can do stuff, right? So that's great. So touching on that, I want to ask you, well, how do you see the future of animation in general, and in Mexico, but in general, like how do you see, what do you foresee in the future for this art form?
Well, just like Guillermo said about teaching the next generation, it is very important, because in stop motion, if you see it worldwide, we're not as many as you think. We're just a few, and that's why you in the feature films and the stop motion feature films, you always see the same names, and it is very important to pass the knowledge. Just like I experienced in Martin and Saunders, and I saw it in Pinocchio. We got these kids working in each department. I met there young artists that are here, right there, one. Yeah, and they are very talented.
Get up if you're here, get up. Even if you want to do it, come on.
Lupita,
Lupita, ándale.
Yeah, and not to blow my own horn, but
toot your own horn.
Yeah. Well, I had it easier than this guy. Actually, she was my teacher, my mentor, and just like Rigo was her mentor, and I mentored these young kids, and I passed what took me years to learn. They learned in a few months, and now all of them, all these young kids that worked in Pinocchio, are thinking about making their own short films, and this is really important, because every one of us has the ambition to make a feature film someday, and we need people to make those feature films. We can do it by ourselves. So that's really important. That it's very encouraging to see these kids that start to fly from the nest, and yeah.
But there's also important to tell everyone that likes stop motion, is of all the animation forms, is the one you can do alone in your room. Like, you don't need big machines, you don't need big processing farms, you don't need technology, you don't need apps, you don't need a crew. If you want to say fuck you to the world through a stop motion film, you can do it on yourself. You can do it on your own. So it's an incredibly important art form to preserve, because it can be so intimate and so an answer to the world, and say, this is my pain or this is my circumstance, you can immediately do it. With an iPhone, one app and a puppet and a couple of crappy lights, you can make these things come alive. So this is very important. You can compete with anyone in the world with no resources. You cannot compete with Pixar or DreamWorks in rendering and in scenes and effects. No, but you can with this. So this is why it's so great to see Chilean animation is kicking ass, Argentine animation is kicking ass. This is really vital for the art form. And that's the future, because the future should be in the hands of the people that can express that.
Well, I think it's a great opportunity really to express yourself. We have, some of us have this necessity to really just make something, to say something. And the process is absolutely amazing. Like, I really enjoy all the process, the idea, the design of the characters, the animation, and then sharing. And this is great. The first time I came here to ANNECY, I said to myself, this is my tribe. These are like me. We all share this absolute passion to tell something, to say something. And animation, I think, is a great opportunity. I'm always pushing, trying to expand this love for handmade work.
We like to say that we want to envenenarlos, así como like, what do you say? Poison them with this passion, right? Sorry? What? Yes.
That's,
Yes.
Is that your kid?
Yes.
Can you get out?
Chiri.
Que te pague, Giri.
Saluda a todos.
He loves animation.
Dante was the voice.
Yeah, and he's the voice of her short, Umo. Yes, you can sit now.
Well, just to wrap it up a little bit more, I just wanted to give each of you the opportunity to, what would you like to say to this to this group of young people, and like their passion? What is the advice that you would give them, each of you? Please, Sophie, start.
That was not in the. That wasn't in the script. Okay, I'm a little bit kamikaze, so I'm going to say some strange things, but not that strange. I mean, we are all animators, so it's okay. When I didn't have money and I didn't have support, what I usually used to say was like, okay, I'm going to do it anyway. So my parents used to like, okay, how many do you need or something? Well, now, anyway, I will say just do kamikaze, because if you do that, then you can learn things. Probably everything is going to be bad, but you already know so many things that you are going to apply to for the next work, and then you grow up. If you just wait too much, the passion is going to, you're going to do other stuff, so you're going to distract. So if you want to make something, to say something, just go for it. And it's not going to be like perfect, but you have learned so much, you're going to apply that in the next. And then in the next you're going to say, okay, I'll do this, I learned that from the other, so I'm going to put it into another story. And then you just go there, and then you're going to get better, because animation is just about doing, and learning about doing. And okay, it's not perfect, but then the other one is going to get better. And I don't know, just do it, because there's also this great opportunity to know yourself, to understand yourself, to I don't know, just to continue learning, getting better. And then yes, I think I'm going to stop there.
Just do it. God
Okay,
damn it.
kamikaze.
So really try to see it that way. We can make this like a fun part and have a good time.
I like it.
I would say that,
Well, in England.
Well, I'm a Generation X guy, and I will sound like a boomer, but what I would say is that you young people thinking about animation should arm with patience. Right now, it is very easy to get things quick, and animation is a very long process. But if you have, like all of them said, a story you need to tell, arm yourself with patience, and it is totally worth it. What I learned with her when she was mentoring me was that I thought animation was Bugs Bunny and Donald Duck, and that was it. And when I learned that Span Mayer existed, I was blown away. You can tell very complex stories, and there's no limit. So yeah, just push forward. The result is always satisfactory.
Hablando con que está diciendo León de que el tiempo que implica hacer una animación es tan largo, me recordé a Rigo cuando decía, hacer animación es como ver crecer el pasto lento.
She says, just listening to this and knowing how long it takes to do one animation film, and she remembers Rigo Mora saying, making animation is like watching grass grow really, really slow.
Y bueno, se trata de eso, de tener pasión y creer en levantarte en la mañana y descubrir que lo que quieres hacer, preparas tu café y resolver cada plano. Eso es la verdadera, no son los premios, no son las pasarelas, no son los likes. En realidad lo que te despiertas cada mañana y dices, ¿cómo voy a resolver este cabrón?
So she says the real joy of animation, the real beauty of animation is to wake up in the morning, make your coffee, and figure out how you're going to solve this little piece of storytelling, this shot. And it's not about the awards, it's not about likes, it's not about the festival glamour, it's not about any of that, but about problem solving, just a little bit of storytelling at a time.
Y eso es una pequeña pieza de un gran rompecabezas que desmembras y vuelves a armar y descubres que la historia se va escribiendo de alguna manera sola, porque el intercambio de estas piezas puede llegar a llegar a un sentido mucho más interesante, no quedarte siempre con lo que ya habías planeado hace un tiempo, sino que tiene que evolucionar y evolucionas con él.
She says that to solve this puzzle is to actually letting that puzzle tell you what it wants to be. That it's not just born out of the idea you had, that it talks to you back and it shapes itself back as you solve every little piece of problem. It tells you what the story you need to tell is. And it doesn't stay in one shape, it changes. That's it, motherfuckers. And I will say this, I think that I have now been blessed with 30 years career. I've been doing things for film for more than 40 years. You know, I've 45 years I've dedicated my life to create things that stay. A film festival, a scholarship here, a group there, solving problems over there. If you do that, the one thing that is really, really beautiful is to think not about yourself, but about the medium you were blessed to be born in. With the problems are the solutions. The obstacle is the road. You were put there where there is no road to create one. You were not born in a disadvantage. You were born in a circumstance. And you can change the circumstance if you don't think about it as a disadvantage. The voice you get comes from your pain and your lackings and the rage you have to talk to the world and say, you don't have to be this way. You can make you this other way. So you have to see your craft and your circumstance like that. And I think this is very important because No one changes the world by accepting the role of a victim. You have to take the role of a maker. You have to understand that everything you were cursed with, you were blessed with. And you have to take that and change the circumstance, because the highest thing you can do as a human being is making sure that the next person that comes along has a different world to face. That's it.